We used it.
I wonder if it's got this play of some sort of.
Go ahead and take a picture. Okay. Good.
You know, I have not. I talked to Ron Scott about it, but I never have done it. Had him out here, but I don't know just the whole geological thing. That this is all left on what sits in the Alabama River.
Sorry, I didn't get that. I honestly did not.
But given what we've seen of the geology of the swamp down there and the sand and this situation, it pretty well points towards a river situation.
Hey, can I use your phone?
Aren't they? Get everybody up and I'll talk about them a little bit. We've got along these banks, this fern right here, or this big one right here, that's probably triple pinnate, pinnate, at least double. I keep forgetting the difference between triple and double in terms of how this works. But this is Mariana maiden fern, and this is and it has a beautiful, the spores on this give you a little herringbone look, but I think it's downy shield fern. We've had about 15, 16 species of fern out here. These banks are just loaded with mosses. There's also right here, oh excuse me, I'm sorry. That is a liverwort. Mosses, liverwort. And there's also in the other ravine the first hornwort I've ever identified. Now when plant life came out of the ocean, it was algae. Algae turned into your mosses, well, to these dudes first. Mosses, liverworts, hornworts, those are the most ancient plants that there are. And they have, I've forgotten the sexual reproduction, but they have two ways of doing it. It's really ancient stuff. And they don't do osmosis. There's another procedure to get stuff from one cell to another. But these are very ancient plants. And I had found a clump of this up at the other ravine, and I couldn't figure out what in the world this stuff was. I brought it home and I went through my father's, all my tree books, plant books. I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I looked at Dad's book of Carolina plants, vascular, and I thought, non-vascular. And I Googled that, and I came up with all this stuff. I said, this is a liverwort. So I got to looking around for liverwort sites. And the best liverwort site was Dr. Davison at UNA and up in North Alabama. And I sent him on a Sunday night a picture, two or three pictures of this liverwort. I get up the next morning at 6:30, check my emails, and at 4:45 he had sent me an email back. He said, Mr. Campbell, this is a Marcania da-da-da-da-da, or a Marcania da-da-da-da. Check this on it and you'll be able to tell. But he's identified liverworts for me over the years. I've had a blast sending things to people all over the country trying to figure out what various things are.
Oh, the green plant. here. It's not the mob.
But all
Yeah.
the amount of stuff growing on these walls is just amazing. I mean, just take 1 square meter and you start trying to figure out all the stuff that's there. It is amazing the number of species. And all these walls are just unbelievable. Now up on the highlands here, we've got post oaks, cherry bark oaks, chinkapin oaks, white oak. We got a white oak up in the ravine, up on the ravine in the north end. We have pawpaws. We don't have we have the dwarf pawpaw. It's a little shrub, and they grow along the sides here. There was one crabapple I found. Some big leaf one or two pieces of big leaf snowbell. I try to walk these things. The sides of this thing, there are little ravines all over the place. They're just always up and down. And we also have an oak up here that's pretty uncommon, except on these kinds of hills where you have the old river was, and you come down, called a sandpost oak, which is locally common, but you got to be where they are. You're just not going to find them. And we've got some of them around here. There's anything too rare, but there is some stuff that's sort of locally common stuff in here. We have one salamander that lives in here, that's a lung salamander. All the salamanders in the swamp are lungless. They breathe through the skin. The slimy, and he's silky black with white flecks all over him. And there's at least one more up here that I missed. I turned a log over. That's how you find salamanders. You just got to go with what we call log turning and see what runs. And he was way too fast for me, but he was big, and it was a new species that I had not seen out here. And I started putting some of these pieces of plywood down, but I have to leave them long enough to get it where they'll, if we'd gone further down that seat, I've got a couple of 2x6s laid out there. You roll those over, there's always spotted dusky and southern two-lined under there. They just scatter once you open it up.
So what caused this ravine?
Water. This sand, when we had the flood in Montgomery, whatever years ago, when the state buildings and much of downtown flooded, the basements and all that, this gushed out about 6 inches of sand. But but for years, I'd come in here after a 3 or 4 inch rain and the leaf litter didn't move. And all of a sudden, the past 2 years, I get a 3-inch rain, and you can tell I'm getting more sand out. This ravine goes up about 100 yards, turns to the right, and then you go into a higher bank, and you can see the V where it's coming into that one, but it's not cut all the way down to this level. But it's all water action. But the city, in doing various things, water gets rerouted. But at some point, this was a major blow. At King Hill, on that bend of the road, up Upper Wetumpka Road, when you hit that bend and there are park area out there, all of that was filled in. When you look at the old contour maps back when, that was a really deep ravine. And that would have been, it should have never been filled in. I mean, it would have been a gee golly, wow, what a place to be kind of ravine. And what we've got left is still gee whatever. The city, we don't own all that. We own a piece of it right there at Upper Wetumpka, and then there's, I've forgotten how many feet or yards that we don't own till we get into this part of the park. But we've got to get a hold of that and get that stream through there redone where we are not kicking out so much sand. The problem is on the upper side of the Wetumpka Road, there are these huge culverts. And then there's a barrier that says, there's a little girl that got caught down in these things. Well, from one side of the road to the other, there's like a 40 to 60 foot drop from here down. So water coming from that side hits this side and scours, and then throws that sand across into Chambliss Pond. It's just unmerciful. But we've got to do something to solve that sand problem. and there's sand coming in on the north end under Kansas down the canal. So we've got to solve the sand problem there, because what we're going to do is take that canal up, rejigger it, but it will come through or to the swamp. And I have a discussion with Goodwin Mills. They're saying through it, and I'm saying, no, we aren't putting anything through all those trees out there. Put it to it, but not through it. You know, let it just come in and fill up, because what all that was at one time, all that was just a flood area. It filled up and then tipped out. I mean, there's no channels in that out there. I mean, the channel left millions of years ago. But the other ravine is beautiful too, and it has water in it, and it's soft, and it gets to be, it's a real hike to get through there, and I don't normally take many people except small groups up there to walk in up there. But it's long and it's pretty too, and there are 30-foot sides on it up there. It's beautiful. But this is just, wow. But we don't own, somewhere right in here is where our property line runs. We need to run all the way up to the top. We need to control the property all around the rim. Some places we do, other places we don't. And we need an entrance into the park up here where you can come in and have, not cut things down, but just be able to come in up there to walk down and then come across this. I don't know whether we need to let people in here, because what happens is everybody wants to climb, and you want to stay off the sides, other than just leading people through, but have, you know, where people can see what this looks like. Because this is just, I mean, you've seen a lot of different stuff. I wish I could carry you deeper in the seats to show you just how extraordinary it is to be under all these big sweet bays that lean over. It's just, you just feel like you're in the Amazon somewhere. You just do not feel like you're in Alabama. And then to go into the Tupelo Swamp is another whole look. The Cypress area is another whole look that you haven't seen. And then you have this. I mean, and the slopes are neat. Everything has it's just a fantastic place. But I have yet to get the powers that be at the city to say, wow, we really need to do something with this. And all they think is, cost too much, can't be a priority right now. My idea is, you plan, then you'll find the money. But if you never plan, we're never going to get there. And I'm going to push the daylights out of them to get the money raised. If we could get a master plan going, I think we can start coming up with grants and other things. There are people we can tap into to raise, but this is millions and millions. This is not a small thing. But this would forever change the complexion of Montgomery. I mean, this would be a absolute game changer. I don't think they understand how big a deal this is. You can have all the restaurants and the shot spots down there that you want, but people want to get out. And all of this needs to be connected. And we just have a lot of this kind of beauty in the city that we just need to bring out. I mean, there's at Powder Magazine, I mosey all around that place and just hike all over it. And we need boardwalks out there to show people all that's out there. There's some gorgeous stuff out there. But this is, you hear anything? Not much. I mean, this is just a marvelous spot. But to be able to come out here, but you got to have folks to take people around to show and talk and raise interest and do things for kids, etc. And that could be developed. But it'll take a lot of people and a lot of time.